They never forgot the ones they failed to save. Not in the West. Not back then. And Samuel Hargrove was no different. 17 years had passed since that night on the frontier, when he'd stood helpless, too far to reach, watching someone he loved stolen from him. The gun in his hand had been useless, his cries swallowed by wind and dust. 17 years later, the shame still clung to him like the smell of burnt powder. Summer, 1892. Dodge City baked under a brass-colored sky. Dust stung the eyes, horse sweat and whiskey stank from the saloons. Wagon wheels groaned over ruts. Somewhere, a church bell rang too soft to matter. Samuel was herding his last 2 steers through the stockyard, his mind already on a cold drink and the long ride home, when a sound cut through the market noise. Not loud, more like the frayed end of a prayer. He turned, past sacks of feed and a leaning fence. He saw her, a young woman, no more than 22, tied so tightly her shoulders hunched forward. Rope it deep into her skin, leaving raw marks along her shoulder and knee. A white dress, once fine, now torn and dirt-stained, clung to her like a flag in surrender. Hair stuck to her cheek, where sweat and dust had mingled. A thin red mark streaked her jaw. She sat in the corner of a wooden pen, half hidden in shadow, as if the world had already decided she didn't matter. Their eyes met. No scream, no words, just a trembling breath. "Please, take me with you." Samuel had no reason to interfere, except for the one thing he saw in her eyes, something he couldn't name. In that instant, the noise, the heat, the cattle, all of Dodge vanished. The street could have burned down around him, and he wouldn't have noticed. He stepped closer, and in her gaze, Samuel saw something that pulled the years away, something he thought he'd buried forever. This wasn't just another stranger in trouble. If he walked away now, he'd never forgive himself. Samuel didn't waste time after Virgil Crane rode off. He knew that look. The look of a man who had already decided how he was coming back. By sundown, the mare was saddled, a few supplies packed, and they were on the trail. Evelyn didn't ask where. She just climbed up behind him, still clutching that sack like it held the last piece of her. They crossed the Arkansas River under a bleeding sunset and aimed north toward the Smoky Hills, sticking to the quiet trails most folks avoided. 2 days in, the heat cut sharp as glass. Cicadas screamed in the cottonwoods like they were warning of what lay ahead. Samuel led them into a narrow canyon, a place only an old cavalry scout would know. High red walls rose on both sides, offering shade but no easy way out. Then came the sound, faint, but Samuel knew it too well. Pebbles tumbling down a rock face. He froze. Trouble had found him. A shadow shifted along the ridge. Then a man dropped fast on the ledge, knife flashing in the dim light. He seized Evelyn's arm, yanking her back. She gasped, twisting away, the blade slicing her sleeve. Samuel lunged, the world narrowing to sweat, dust, and steel. The attacker swung again, grazing his shoulder. Pain flared, but Samuel shoved Evelyn toward the canyon mouth. "Run," he barked. But Evelyn didn't run. Her hand darted to Samuel's belt, pulling free the revolver. She cocked it, hands trembling, and fired into the rock just above the man's head. The crack rolled through the canyon like thunder. "You've got 2 seconds," she said, voice shaking but steady enough. The man didn't test her. He scrambled up the wall and vanished. The canyon fell silent, except for their ragged breathing. Samuel looked at her, dust in her hair, eyes burning with something new. She wasn't just someone to be saved anymore. She was someone ready to fight for her own life. They rode until the sun dropped and the canyon was only a memory behind them. By the time they found an abandoned line shack near the river, both were too worn out to care about the dust on the floor or the wind hissing through the cracks. Samuel built a small fire. Its glow flickered against the rough-hewn walls. Evelyn sat close, the tattered sack in her lap, staring into the flames as if they could burn away everything she'd endured. For the first time since Dodge, she spoke without hesitation. She told him about her family's land in Texas, how debt had stripped it away, how men like Virgil had claimed her as if she were nothing but livestock, how she had promised herself that if she ever got free, she'd never be powerless again. Samuel listened. He didn't offer empty comfort. A man who had seen enough loss knew that sometimes listening was the only thing that mattered. When she finally smiled, a small, tired thing, it struck him that maybe the West wasn't just about surviving. Maybe it was about giving someone a reason to keep going. Outside, the prairie stretched endless under a sky full of stars. Peace felt too fragile to trust. Samuel's gut told him it wouldn't last. And he was right. By dawn, the pounding of hooves shattered the quiet. A lone rider approached slow, deliberate, like a man who wanted to make sure you saw him coming. Virgil Crane. "Thought I'd give you one last chance, Sam," he called, resting a hand on his holster. Samuel stepped off the porch, rifle in hand. "This is the last chance you'll get," he answered, voice steady as stone. For a long moment, neither man moved. Then Virgil's smile twitched, and he turned his horse without another word. But Samuel knew better. Men like Virgil didn't ride away for good. They circled back when they smelled fear. Tonight, there'd be none of that here.